The question in my mind is, how do you create or relaunch a highly profitable and successful 6 to 7 figure business? With so much conflicting advice about the best ways to start and grow your business, how do you get it right the first time? I want to help entrepreneurs make a real difference and navigate the messy world of startup or relaunch. My name is John North, and this is the Startup Secrets for Entrepreneur Show. Join me today when we dig deep with our guests and get you the best blueprint so you can fast track your own business. This episode is sponsored by Evolvepreneur.app, your all-in-one online business system. Make sure you subscribe for future episodes at startupsecrets.show right now. So let's get into today's episode.
Hi, I'm Jase Webster. I just did an interview with John North on the Startup Secrets show. Join in and watch the interview. It was a cracker on joint venture marketing and strategies for high growth for startup businesses in order to get the most optimal use out of their time, energy, and resources at low cost, risk, and maximum return.
Our very special guest is Jase Webster, who's a JV marketing guru, we'll call him. I don't know whether he likes to call the guru, but we'll start there. No, probably not. So there you go. Neither do I. I think it's crazy talk. So welcome, Jase, to the show.
Thanks, Guru John.
Thanks. So that was anoint ourselves as gurus here, right?
Gurus, yeah.
Gurus seem to be the go. So
yeah, why not?
Tell me a little bit about where your background. So how'd you get to be a JV guru in this scenario?
Okay, so how I started to be a JV guru. Well, look, it all stemmed back to the fact that I'll go back to the days before the days of entrepreneurship. I was a police officer and I worked in the divisional intelligence unit. So I had a way of being able to connect with people and gather information.
We have ways of making you talk, right?
Exactly right. We have ways of making you talk. So, I gathered intelligence and I was able to collaborate with different people. And one of the mindset differentiations that I had, and the reason that I got great results in catching crooks, was the ability to collaborate even with the criminals, so to speak. And you would never actually see that happen. Most of the people that I worked with, their mindsets were like, well, you know, they're crooks, so stuff them. But mine was like, look after them. The more information you get, the more you have the ability to then go on. Because when you're investigating, one lead always leads to another, to another, to another. And before you know it, you're doing your job and you're catching a bigger crook than just the smaller and petty ones. But the smaller ones always lead to the big ones, right? So,
I mean, human nature too, people want to help you, right? It's interesting. If you ask someone for help, they'll tend to default to want to help you.
It's amazing when you put someone down and go, mate, would you like a coffee? What can I do for you? You know, how many sugars? And then all of a sudden, information.
They blab.
So
no need for thumb screws.
no need for thumb screws. No, we're in the 21st century now. Everything's changed, you know. So it's funny, you know, no more phone books or anything like that. I did see a bit of that though as well, and that worked. It just wasn't my style. But yeah, so moving on from there, you know, I was always interested in personal development and growth. I was, you know, listening to the likes of Dr. John DeMartini and a few others, and I met him and as a police officer. And then my offsiders and colleagues and superiors were like, look, Jase, you got to be an entrepreneur. You know, you should start your own business. And so I went on that journey, and then I decided, you know, I went into network marketing, started with that. That was, you know.
That's always fun. I think every entrepreneur has a go at network marketing. It's like a rite of passage.
It's the rite of passage, right? And then you realise, look, I'm making someone else really rich, and you know,
and you're running out of friends usually.
Running out of friends. Don't know how many, you know, invites. If I could show you a way, would you? But it's a good starting point. It's a good rite of passage. So, you know, that gave me the capabilities. But one thing that I was always doing on my journey, you know, being really the right-hand man to a lot of the, let's just call them the legitimate gurus, like the ones that would be gurus in the marketplace. I had the enough fortune to work alongside these individuals and see what they were doing, including Jay Abraham and everything. I was able to see what they were doing. And during the time that I was doing that, say roles of head of sales and development and stuff, I was always connecting people. So when people say I've got a problem, I'll go, oh, you need to speak too. And it was so effortless for me until the day I was actually walking on the beach with one of my friends and someone said, look, you know, you can get paid for what you do. And I was like, really? It's so simple, you know, like, and it was so effortless and simple for me. So then I started just getting the ball rolling, and then I had enough courage to step out on my own, which, you know, when you're in the seat next to the gurus that are doing all the lead generation and all the work's coming in for you and you're still making good money for it, it's often hard to step out on your own because you're like, now everyone's looking to you. And
hungry mouths to feed, usually. You know, your bills to pay, hungry mouths to feed.
Exactly right. So, and, you know, you always want to deliver and you want to make sure you deliver. And JVs, you know, I couldn't have, I guess, you know, it comes effortless. So it just unfolded from there. And then I bought the domain jointventuremarketing.com for, I think, around $7,000.
Okay.
And Australian, because it was in the US. So it was now
in the US dollars.
Yeah. And it wasn't at the time that the dollar was matching. So it was a bit sad. But I knew that I needed that because I was having conversations with people. I was saying, I'm from Joint Venture Advisory. That was the original name I called it. And then and then people were like, oh, do you do like company mergers and stuff? I was like, no. Are you an accountant? No. Are you a lawyer? No. So joint venture marketing, people go, oh yeah, you do marketing.
You connect the dots. Yeah.
I had to get it. So so that's I guess the origin story of JVs and how it all stemmed. It was just natural ability really, and the love for just meeting people and putting them together.
And so when you look at a potential client, and we sort of touched on in an earlier episode we did with it, was that the ability to figure out the best client that you should be, like the best JV partner you should be looking for.
Yeah.
And also getting very clear about the right sort of client you should be looking for. Because if those two don't match, then you've got a real, you know, problem on your hands because you're going to be talking to the wrong people for the wrong things, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You got to get ultra. That, you know, that story about sharpening the axe to chop down the tree. In any business, you've got to sharpen the axe. You've got to get ultra specific on who you're looking to target when you're setting up a partnership, because you want the lines of communication to be succinct and deliberate to the point where someone goes, yeah, that's me and I want this. But number two, the partner has to see that you are someone of value and you are actually understanding who their client is, which then helps establish trust, relationship, and all those, you know, 4 boxes: no love, like, and blah, blah, blah. Yep. And you do that. And then, you know, then the partner's going to be more comfortable because they're like, oh, well, you work with my ideal target market, which means that there's mutual respect and understanding there, the same jargon and everything, nomenclature, you know, it's speaking the same language and being on the same page. And that's probably the most important thing in order to build trust inside a relationship, because that is, like, JVs is simply the transference of trust from you to the partner to the client back. And yeah, that's how it works. And
trust is the thing. You know, like, I think if, at the end of the day, no one buys from you if they don't like and trust you. So I guess the same principle applies with JV. If they don't know, like, and trust you, then they're not going to do anything for it. So when you go to do a JV, what do you find is the biggest problems in that sort of scenario? Let's say someone says they go ahead with it. You know, let's do it. And in my experience, what's happened is that a lot of these JVs fall apart. So what happens is they don't do what they said they were going to do, or no one sort of actions it, or no one seems to be responsible for it. And so the whole thing just never goes anywhere. So how do you sort of seen that happen, and how do you encounter that?
That's a good question. Number one, it starts off at the beginning as setting the standards and the expectations from the start. So you want to identify that you're going for a partner that's serious. But number two, they actually do see the benefit of doing it, and they're going to be motivated. And that's cool. All comes down to the initial questioning. are you open to strategic alliances? If we were to do this and it would do this, would you be interested? Is that something that you would execute on? Getting really, really clear and setting deadlines and expectations. But fundamentally behind that, once again, relationship. It's always maintaining that relationship, constant channels of communication, and then motivating factors. Also, they have to have the resources in order to be able to, one, execute on the JV, and you have the resources in order to fulfill and deliver on your end. Otherwise, it all falls apart. So whilst these are, and JVs are the greatest strategy in order to scale at a fast pace, I would say that you have to really, really get precise and dial in on exactly who you're targeting, and everything has to work. And this is why someone like myself comes into the picture, because I've got the capability of seeing it all and all the moving parts.
And the helicopter view. And at the end of the day, looking at it and saying, hang on a minute, for a real person who's not going to understand this. Like, it's like, well, the product's too hard to sell, or that person's not going to do what they say they're going to do.
Yep, correct. And that comes down to I like to call it the smoky grey line between businesses and speaking the same language. If you say, for example, or a company, you want to work in big corporate, if you've got a CTO, like if you partner with a company that communicates with the CTO, but you need the CMO, that is a complete chief marketing to chief technology or information operator, different roles, different departments. They may not even communicate with each other within the organization. It might be once a month. So that's just not going to work. What you want to do is go, okay, well, I need a CMO, and the partner that I'm partnering with needs to have access to the CMO in order to get into this corporate company. That's playing at the bigger level. From a nuts and bolts small business level, okay, I'm a business coach and I want access to, say, tradies. They're my ideal client. Okay. Who has access to tradies? Well, trade-specific services, you can think of them, but also web developers specific to trade. And if you get even more dialed in on it, then it's like, okay, well, tradies know that they need a website and they need the web presence. Therefore, once they have a website and web presence, they might be doing SEO or lead generation. They're increasing their clients, which then inevitably leads to a business coach being necessary to help with the scalability of that business. So therefore, web developers,
life cycle, really. Yeah.
Bingo. So it's all about identifying, not just, okay, yeah, that would be an ideal partner, but where do you fit in it? I had a company that does storytelling in corporate the other day, and I partnered them with a film company, a video, and they do corporate film. Now, it's very easy for corporate film to go, okay, well, we can see where like the inevitable step from scripting is now video. But on the flip side, it's a little bit more difficult to plop it in. So it's like, where is it on the evolution, the evolved system, so to speak?
Makes sense. And I think the thing is too is paying attention. Like I helped with a client's venture with a pharmaceutical company, and we went to a meeting, and they'd almost got every single staff member they could find. Us, so I found some in the hallway and brought them into the meeting, I think, because what happened was you ended up with all these different people talking about all these different things, and ultimately what happened was, my realization when I came out of the meeting was no one was driving it. So everybody was their own little department, but the reality was that no one was ever going to do anything because they all kind of wanted to look like they were doing something, but they were waiting for someone else to do something. And so that's a tricky one I found in situations. If you don't get the right person driving it, and that potentially from the top sometimes, because they can kick bums, right? So if something goes wrong, you can get someone to kick a bum. If they're right down on the scale of things, they're not going to be able to push up in terms of management. So
yeah, that's interesting. My mind goes off and starts asking who would be the right driver behind something like that. I mean, if all else fails, you just pull the janitor into the room and just go just get the janitor and just sit here and just... He
might have an opinion, right? He's probably got a better opinion than all of them. I don't know. He might have better ideas. He probably see more things than everybody else. So interesting is with cleaners, right? They're expected, it's like children, theoretically in the old days, like seen and not heard, right? and
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
like
yeah.
the clinicians are not even supposed to see them, right? So it's like,
Wise janitor.
yeah, he's a wise janitor, so he probably knows everything.
Yeah.
So if someone wants to do a JV, and let's say they've got their right market right, they figured out who their best customer is, and I guess they've done some research to try and find those sort of people.
Mm-hmm.
What's the best way to open the lines of communication with this? Because I think you've got a pretty straightforward way of doing it, but I think a lot of people sort of try the soft way. But what's your best sort of outcome in terms of getting something done in that scenario?
Yeah, go straight to the top. Don't bother about trying to work your way up the chains. If you go directly to the top, and I'm just saying it like without getting ultra precise on exactly who, you want to start at the top because they can always refer you down. But
Yes.
Going up is always more
Hard work, hard climb, right?
Correct. Yeah, correct. If there's a position like head of partnerships, then they're good. But the way that I do it is it's just a very direct approach. There's no bullshitting around because I just don't have time. So I have a 4 to 5 way approach, which is number one, first and foremost, is one, get on Google, do your research. Number two, cross-reference with LinkedIn. Use a data scraper, something like Lucia that gets their direct contact mobile number. One of the feedback you want to be getting on the call a lot is how the hell did you get my number?
Yeah, they're curious, right? How'd you stop me?
And you say, oh, back of the toilet door, like...
You should see what they said about you, right?
With big lip marks around it and love hearts. So, look, I never say that. I actually explain to them exactly how I do it. And most times they're impressed, but it's also how you communicate. But first and foremost, it's number one, pick up the phone. Why? Because that's just direct to contact. People appreciate cold calls these days, believe it or not, and outbound marketing, because it's kind of like a lost art. Everyone's banging on about social media, but let's see how that's going to keep going for most.
The reality with that is it's so much automated now and there's so many scammers out there that basically it's like you can tell straight away this is not going to go well from the correctly line that you just got. Right?
Yeah, correct. Exactly right. There's that many bots and everything. Like I said earlier, not on this call with you, but I've got a CRM company and a tech company in my client list, and I still don't have a CRM. I use a notebook and pen, and I know that from a standpoint of is it operationally scalable and everything. At the end of the day, I get results, and I stick to nuts and bolts, which is pick up the phone and have a conversation, not using bots, not using algorithms or anything like that. So pick it, especially for partnerships, because one partnership can add 6 to 7 figures to your bottom line. Is that worth picking up the phone yourself? Probably. You got to.
Not like you're ringing 150 people a day, right? You're
exactly right.
You're not cold calling 150 people a day. You're probably ringing maybe luckily 1, 2.
Yeah. Look, if you're in business, definitely, and you've got the time and the scope to do it. One of the problems that most business owners have is their capability to put energy on it, and this is where I come in, and it's one of the advantages. People know the benefits of partnerships. They just don't have the time to do it.
The dedication or the focus.
Yeah, so they'll hire me on my team, and they'll do that, and then so pick up the phone first and foremost. Then LinkedIn introduction. Hey, just identify something about them, and then finish off with, are you open to strategic alliances? I always say strategic alliances, less invasive than joint venture. Joint venture, even though in its form is a partnership and it's basic, can be seen as setting up a special purpose vehicle. So I say strategic alliance or partnership. Just something simple like that. So LinkedIn connection, and then LinkedIn inbox message, and then email, and then WhatsApp message if they don't answer the phone, and also leave a voicemail. So that's like 5 approaches there. And if you really want to be cool and you've got a good, lead generation tool, say if you're an author or something, and, John, you work with people to publish books, as you know, the best lead generation tool, great way to position in the marketplace, lumpy mail, send them something, write a nice little handwritten letter in it, and then they will most likely reach out to you. So that's where you come into it, because I can't do it.
Had a guy that I knew years ago, and what he used to do is he used to send a picture of a crocodile in the mail, like a postcard, and he said, "You don't answer my phone, I'll send you a live one." And the other one he used to do was he'd find out their shoe size. He'd send them one shoe, and he said in the meeting, "I'll bring the other one." It's very, and so you know, like the lumpy mail thing can work because nowadays hardly anybody gets any mail, and if it looks like a gift, it's your secretary's not going to open it. You know, the gatekeeper's going to go, "Well, I'm not going to open this. Looks like a gift. I better just put it straight on his desk." And so at the end of the day, it's like you've got a situation where, you know, you can get past it really quickly because the gatekeeper's not as relevant in that situation.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if the gatekeeper thing's going to be an issue, typically the gatekeeper thing isn't an issue when talking about strategic alliances and partnerships. And the reason for that is they don't know about it too much, so they can't really make a decision. And it's also bypassing a direct pitch for you selling something to a company. So it's kind of like the backdoor entry, and it's an indirect way to build a relationship and then render your clients. I know it's one step removed from direct approach, but it does render greater results over a period of time, especially with a good relationship and one with synergy.
And I mean, if you go in the right way and you're not, you know, you're being nice about it and you're being respectful about it, I don't think most people don't get upset. It's when people get nasty on the phone and stuff like that, so they start getting, you know, think I'm not dealing with that person ever again. So I mean, it's a great first impression that you've really got to focus on. Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, if you're really respectful, the gatekeepers, you know, they're human. They're businesses, people, and you know, you treat people with respect, and you typically get results. Pays to just be a good human in life.
True, good point. You make a good point there.
Yeah, funny that, isn't it?
Life is much simpler, and I think you know, certain things like pandemics bring out the worst in people and the best in people. So at the end of the day, like I think you'd want to be on the other side of the ledger, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, that's why I moved to Tasmania and living on a farm now.
Makes sense. So thanks so much for coming on. And I think it's a good subject to work on. And I think it's for an entrepreneur who's got low revenue or low money to put into a game, then JVs is a good place to start because they can get a quick start. And also they understand a lot. I think in a lot of cases when you talk to people, even sometimes you get no, you know, you're going to learn something. So I think it's a great way to kind of test the market. If you can't sell your product at scale to someone that can sell it at scale, then you maybe you've got a problem with your product. So I think it's a great learning curve in that as well.
Yeah, it's a big baptism of fire too, because you're facing a lot of fears as well, which is actually having a conversation with people. And it's not, you know, direct sales, so it's less invasive, but it's a good way to start. And it's a lot of learning involved and a lot of growth. But you're utilizing the number one marketing strategy. Even Jay Abraham, you know, he says, you know, it's the number one marketing strategy. And he's the number one marketing wizard or guru. And so people will be silly not to be using it, especially in today's world when Facebook's less reliable than ever. And, you know, ad spend's going up through the roof.
I think the bubble's bursting. I think people have to actually do the hard work again. That's my opinion. Yeah. So I think you've got to go back to the old ways it used to work, because I think social media and that was just the short-term bubble that allowed people to be lazy, and now they may have to come back and actually do the work. So I think it's it'll certainly root out the good ones and the bad ones in that process, I think. Yeah, exactly right. Because then if you're not good enough, then people won't endorse you. Have a good product, have a good service, know how to deliver, and deliver accordingly, and make sure you do. Yeah, just make sure you do. Cool, man. So if someone wants to get in touch with you and talk about the world of JVs, what's the best way to get hold of you?
Yeah, look, LinkedIn's the best way. Find me on LinkedIn. It's Jase Webster. You can also look up Joint Venture Marketing. It's the page on LinkedIn. You can also contact me at jv@jointventuremarketing.com. And from there, I'll always respond accordingly. Just make sure it's a nice message.
Where's my money?
Yeah. That's it.
Thanks, man. And we'll put the links up. We'll put the links up on the site, and we'll talk again soon.
Beauty. Thanks, mate. Cheers.
That's a wrap on another awesome episode for the Startup Secret Show for entrepreneurs. Just before you go, if you like this episode, we'd be very grateful for a 5-star review. Please also consider recommending the show to a friend or two. Make sure you subscribe for future episodes at startupsecrets.show right now. Until next time, if you're an entrepreneur, make a start on your next great business idea today.